And it is the Saturday Coffee Klatch with Heather Lofthouse and yours truly, Robert Reich. And Heather, what do we have? Anything happen this week?
Nothing
Next
per
week?
usual. And nothing next week either.
Oh, well, I disagree.
Let's talk about Kamala's upsurge, Trump's submerge.
I like that.
You like that? How
Yeah.
about Trumponomics and Kamalanomics? Lots to discuss on their alleged policies. And then how about the DNC? What you're thinking about for next week? What
Well,
we're anticipating.
let's go into it. I think that, this is an amazing phenomenon. A lot of people say to me they've never, and these are political, insiders, they've never seen anything like the turnaround in the fortunes of a party, of a political party, of a presidential race. The Democrats are now surging. The polls are showing that Kamala Harris is actually running now neck and neck or ahead of Donald Trump in some critical swing states. And what is Donald Trump doing?
Panicking.
He's panicking. He's melting down.
And rambling.
And incoherent. I think he is actually caught in the headlights. He doesn't know what to do. And his handlers are, on Thursday, it was supposed to be a big Trump event about the economy, but he didn't want to make it about the economy. He wanted to make it about
Kamala,
and he likes to attack. And he even was defensive. He said, I don't mind attacking. In fact, I have a right to attack. I can attack, as if he was talking to his handlers, who said, this is about the economy. This is about policy. This is not about Kamala.
You need to go after persuadables.
He doesn't know how to do that.
He doesn't have he's out of control. He can't control himself. And it turns out that in terms of the qualities I'm looking for a president of the United States to have, self-control would be on the list.
Well, it's not only lack of self-control, and we know that from his first term, but also confronted with a woman, and a black woman. It's as if it brings out in Trump all of his craziness, even worse.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. It's a Kamalanomenon, as they're saying online.
It is a Kamalanomics. Has that Kamalanomics?
I think we said it right. That's what the cool kids are saying these days.
Well, it's a Kamalanomics.
But so he's melting down and he's doing these press conferences. Is he gonna, the counter programming, he hasn't quite figured out what he's doing yet.
No, and this worries me a little bit because we're going to talk about the convention next week. But as we go into the Democratic convention, as Kamala Harris and Walz continue to do better and better, I think my fear, looking at his behavior, I'm talking about Trump, is his tendency is to do something crazier.
Yep.
More explosive, more outrageous, change the entire nature of the game.
I know.
I don't know what it is.
I don't either. I don't want to know. I don't even think I have the skills to strategize in that direction.
Well, I don't think
in all
you
directions.
should. I don't want you to have those kinds of skills.
No, let's not play that game. But in terms of one thing he's announced, so he's all over the place, except he will announce cutting Social Security.
Cutting taxes?
Yeah.
No. He doesn't.
Forgive me.
But you were right.
Yeah, exactly.
You were right. But what he has actually stated publicly is he wants to get rid of federal taxes on Social Security.
Yeah.
And
what is it actually going to do?
What it's actually going to do is number one, it is going to destroy Social Security because those taxes are extraordinarily important for the trust fund. And I can say this as a previous trust fund trustee of the Social Security Trust Fund. You need that flow of money. Right now, the Social Security is in danger of running out of money, the trustees say, in 2033. And if Trump actually were to cut the Social Security taxes out, that would advance the time of Social Security running out of money.
And importantly, who does it hurt and who does it benefit?
Well, this particular plan in the short term benefits mostly high-income Social Security beneficiaries. But over the long term, it would destroy Social Security. Now, Heather, this is something the Republicans have been trying to do and wanting to do for years because Social Security is the most popular program in the entire federal government. Franklin D. Roosevelt put it into effect in 1935, And a lot of people then said to him, well, why should people have individual accounts? And this is all kind of complicated. And he said, no, if everybody has an individual Social Security account and they contribute into that account, they feel that they are owed it. And we will never see this program ended. And he was right, except for Donald Trump. He didn't anticipate that Trump would take away Social
and the
Security
MAGA
taxes.
Republicans would salute him and follow his orders.
So this is dangerous. The easy response, and what the Democrats have already proposed, Biden has proposed it, I think Kamala Harris ought to be even clearer about it, is you take away the cap on income that is subject to the Social Security tax. And right now that cap this year is about $186,000, something like that. It goes up, adjusted for inflation every year. But anybody who earns any more than that is excused from paying Social Security taxes. So it's a very regressive tax overall. Take the cap off, or maybe set the cap so that it starts at $250,000 or $400,000.
I think it's more politically feasible. We've talked about this.
Yeah,
Let's move the cap up.
Just do that, and you'll save Social Security, and the rich will pay their fair share. That's why Social Security is in trouble.
But instead, so he's proposing this, right? This tax cut. He claims it's a tax cut, but it's going to hurt the poorest seniors. 25% of their income is going to be cut, and the richest are going to benefit from it. I mean, it's a classic, and he's doing, his spin where he says, you're welcome, everyone. And it's not everyone.
Well, he believes that the American public is incredibly gullible. And unfortunately, people are gullible to the extent that some people say, well, yes, take away Social Security taxes. But it's just like his 2017 tax cut, which was trickle-down nonsense. Nothing trickled down. He guaranteed $4,000 would trickle down to everybody. Everybody would have $4,000, and nobody got $4,000. Did you?
No, I didn't. But also, I like that tweet you once did where it said trickle-down economics, and then it took the S off and then the C, and then it went all the way down, and it stopped with trick. That's what happened.
It is a trick.
Yeah, but a $1.6 trillion cut. I mean, this is ugly. But hopefully people realize it and decide maybe he's not the president for me after all.
Well, I think that maybe more and more people are realizing that. I hope so. And he doesn't deal in policy. I mean, the interesting thing—
You don't say.
He's not interested in policy. He doesn't want to talk about policy. But when he does come up with policies, they are usually 180 degrees wrong. They reward the rich, the big corporations, and they penalize the people who are average working people or the poor.
We could talk about this for days. His tariffs that he's talking about. I mean, the few things he has spoken about.
The tariffs are an interesting example because he says, let's charge foreigners and foreign countries for selling their goods in the United States without even understanding that a tariff is paid by people who buy the goods. People here in the United States, you put up tariffs, 30, 40, 50, wants to go 100%. What happens? Everything becomes more costly. That it's not only hard and difficult and harmful for consumers in the United States, but it also will aggravate inflation.
Right. And so then on the other hand, we have Kamalanomics. She has been slowly but surely announcing some real policies, some real plans, some real frameworks. Let's get into it.
This is actually very important. And I didn't want to make this whole conversation about policy, but it's important to understand these things. She came out Thursday against price gouging in food. Now, this is something that is really big for a lot of people because even though inflation has come down toward the 2% target that the Fed set for inflation, but a lot of people still are paying through the nose. And food is one of those things. That is, inflation comes down, but prices don't necessarily come down.
And why is that?
Well, you asked the great question, and she's answering it. It's because of concentration, because these companies, the big companies, have too much power. Food industry is a good example. In fact, 85% of beef is produced by 4 companies.
Four
and when you get
companies.
4 companies producing 85% of beef processors, beef packers, what does that mean? It means that they can coordinate pricing. They don't
Yep.
need to, and they're not competitive in the sense that they have to reduce prices.
Right.
No, they keep prices up.
And it's not just the beef, it's the corn. It's over, when we're talking over 50, 60, 70% for these things. The fertilizers, it's the entire food.
77% of all the fertilizer.
Yeah.
4 companies, 80% of the corn, 69% of all grocery sales, 4 companies. And when you have those few, they are coordinating. They're not going to cut prices.
Right. So she's going to come after this at multiple levels, right? And
Yeah.
we don't know exactly. We don't have the crystal clear plans, but it seems like she's going to address it in numerous ways, all of which are needed.
And a lot of it has to do with giving more resources to the Federal Trade Commission to go after these monopolies,
Yeah.
and more resources to the antitrust division of the Justice
Yeah.
Department to get more resources. Speaking of that, Kroger and Albertsons. Now
This was a goodie. I know what you're going to say.
They wanted to, 2 of the biggest grocery chains in America, they wanted to merge. They are actively trying to merge, and the government is saying, no, you can't merge. And what did Kroger say? Kroger said, well, I'll tell you what, we will reduce our prices by $1 billion if you allow us to merge.
Come on. It's like we can't lower our prices. We could lower our prices.
No, we can't really,
but
we
only
could.
if you give us a little more power. It's pretty ridiculous to see this in a news article.
But here's a gross admission by Kroger that they actually could reduce prices by $1 billion.
Yep.
This. If you wanted evidence that there is not enough competition in groceries, here it is.
Yep. Or that power is skewed and they have it.
And pricing power.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look across the economy, Heather, the reason you have record levels of profits across the economy is not your mom and pop stores. It's because big companies have concentrated more and more of their power. They are merging, they are growing. One of the biggest reasons for mergers now is pricing power.
Of course.
To
and
keep
you saw,
prices up.
Right. I'm sure you saw Mars is trying to purchase Kellanova for something like $38 billion. And that would be the biggest merger of the year. We're talking, they've already merged. You've read the stats. And then there's more happening.
Yeah. And when you see, and that's why it is so important to attack these monopolies. It's disguised. People don't know about monopoly power because you don't see it behind all of these individual brand names. You think, there are dozens of brands on my supermarket shelves.
Yeah.
But it turns out that behind the brands, you have just 3 or 4 companies.
Right.
And they are trying to merge.
And the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz plan includes a lot of things, right? So we're talking about trying to address housing issues and affordable housing, again, through various modalities trying to get at it. But it's interesting that price gouging around food and groceries was what I saw on the New York Times earlier this week as the lead.
It is. And I think it's politically powerful. It's the right thing to do. It makes economic sense. Now, obviously, monopolies are not the only reason that we've had inflation. But they are very big and very important. And most people understand that if they think about it and they get the data, they understand what's going on.
And it's a lever where we have some control.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff as it relates to the economy and the macro issues are less easy to control.
Exactly. We're talking about the structure of the economy. And I think that Joe Biden the Biden-Harris administration made a very good beginning at going after all of these monopolization. Look at both the Federal Trade Commission and the Antitrust Division have done very, very good work. With more resources, they can do even more.
That's it. Okay, I want to talk about the DNC that's coming up this week. What are we thinking about it? What's going to happen?
You're talking about the Democratic National Convention
in Chicago, 2024.
Well, I think that it's going to be a combination of a show of gratitude appropriately to Joe Biden,
Did you see, so in their joint event this week, we should talk about that in the prescription drugs. It was interesting to watch President Biden next to Kamala Harris, having to stand there, and she gave him, so much credit and so much, it gave his due. She did. She really kind of.
Oh, by the way, prescription drugs, that's another area in which the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has kept prices, or is now in the process of getting prices down, using the bargaining power of Medicare. Yep. This is something that, Bernie Sanders was talking about years ago.
I know.
And finally, we have an administration that is doing it.
Yeah.
And she's going to do even more of that.
Yeah, it was interesting that that's the first rally they came out on. Again, I mean, we know that voters care about these things. They care about the economy. When you continue to look at the polls, what they say matters most to them. Abortion is up there. We know it, but the economy matters.
And it is the cost of living coming back again and again and again. Very practical issue. So I think that the first thing that happens at the convention is a huge show of gratitude toward Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. And then we move to the coronation of Tim Walz, and then the big Thursday of the coronation of Kamala Harris. And there's going to be a lot of excitement. I think the only thing that worries me, frankly, is the war in Gaza. And
it worries you because it worries you, and
well,
it worries you because of the
I'm
DNC.
worried. Yes, I'm worried about the humanitarian cost. Obviously, I've been worried sick about it, but I am also worried politically. This is, I remember the 1968 Chicago Convention. I remember, I was an anti-Vietnam War protester. I was not there at that time. I was
driving across country. You told us that on a previous Klatch.
But it was it was in Chicago, and it really did split the Democrats. And the Democrats have never fully recovered from that split. And I think the war in Gaza has a potential to do the same thing. I think that they're trying very hard to avoid it, but something like 30 delegates there are from states and from districts where there are a lot of people who are extremely upset about what's going on in Gaza. And so we're going to see some of that.
Right, and justifiably so. So it'll be interesting. There'll probably be some protests outside. We'll see if there's some shouting inside, don't know. And then these uncommitted delegates, we'll see what they say and do, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's those three
But
angles.
I'm not going to go.
You're not?
I'm not going to. No.
Oh, I thought you were flying out.
No.
You don't.
You're not going.
No, I'm not going.
Well, I was
going to say, you were at, was it the 96?
Well, I was the 88. You remember the 88 convention in Atlanta?
Vividly.
Yeah, and Michael Dukakis. Bill Clinton gave the introductory speech went 32 minutes. The only applause line during that Clinton speech introducing Michael Dukakis was when Bill Clinton said, "In conclusion."
Oh, hallelujah.
And then I was at the, I think the 96. And then I was at the...
I think we might even have a clip.
No.
Should we do it?
No.
Let's take a look.
Well, the convention, look at it, is effervescent. It is positive. Some journalist came up to me yesterday and said, off the record, I love the way a journalist comes up to me and says, off the record, said, off the record, I was in San Diego, said that journalist, and the difference between Republican and Democratic conventions is that San Diego, they tried to act festive, and here they are festive.
Yeah. Donna Shalala, and you're going to be hard-pressed to beat this, taught us the Macarena.
Good point.
Mr. Secretary.
Well, there's what I mean about festive. Huh? You couldn't have got that at the Republican convention.
Do you think...
What's the dance at the Republican convention?
I think it's the twist from...
Hey, well, shake it up, baby.
Anyway, let's get this sound to something serious.
No.
Oh, my God. I'm shocked you don't want to go back.
The Macarena, I never did the Macarena.
You did. I feel like I've seen you Macarena. Maybe not at the convention.
Maybe not at the convention.
After party.
Yeah.
The after party. That was a goodie. So you're not going to go. Okay. So you're not going to go. I'm not going to go. Anything else to discuss? I think we've kind of covered it.
Well, I think we did. But it's interesting, that clip about the festive nature of the convention in 96. It was festive, and certainly more festive than the Republicans, But I think the contrast this year is even greater.
Oh, for sure.
Because the Republican convention was so angry. I mean, there was anger and testosterone. You know, the kind
this
of
year, yeah.
this year,
Mm-hmm.
And this coming Democratic convention, I think, is just going to be upbeat. I think that the notion, and that's really what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are giving to the party and to young people and to women and to even some old codgers,
Yeah.
old white
I
men.
think a lot of old codgers.
Yes, I
based
mean
on
it's
the
it's
polls.
a sense that politics doesn't have to be about anger. It can be about hope, about the future, about what we want for our country and ourselves.
Right. And not to be a pessimistic Patty, but a lot of people are hurting, so we have to be a little tempered, right? I mean, of course it's the politics of joy, and there will be a feeling of elation. There will be, but it has to be measured.
But I think there's a connection, Heather, between the politics of joy and the notion that we have the capacity to do things that we haven't done before, dealing with the problem of the poor and the working class and the stagnation of incomes for so many people, dealing with food prices, dealing with all of the problems, the everyday problems that people have. We are upbeat and we are uplifted because of our confidence in our ability to handle these issues.
And this is why I like having coffee with you, because you've been around the block. You've seen the
I've
ups
been-
and the downs.
I've been around forever.
But if you
Anyway,
still have hope,
I do.
it's great.
I do. And you do too.
Let's do this.
And you do too. And listen, thank you for being with us. Be hopeful, be festive, and we'll see you next Saturday.